Welcome to a special edition of Big Apple Hockey Podcast. I am your host, Anthony LaRocco. As you guys all know, Game 6 just ended. The Edmonton Oilers have done the improbable, coming back down from 3-0 to force a Game 7, which will be Monday night in Sunrise, Florida. First time that this has been done since 1945 when the Detroit Red Wings came back down from 3-0, but ended up losing. And then 1942, as you all know, the Maple Leafs came all the way back from 3-0 and they actually won. So very rare. And it's kind of speechless because, this was improbable. 8 days ago, roughly, it was the Florida Panthers were up 3-0, looked to be in total control of the series. Looked like it could be a sweep or, end in 5 games. And now here we are going to a Game 7. And it's just, hockey's such a funny sport, like with momentum. So much of the momentum that has gone to the Edmonton Oilers, and I don't know if they could get it back at this point. Shut these dogs up for a second. I don't know if the Panthers, truthfully, even though they're going back home for Game 7, I do not know if they're going to be able to kind of like stop the bleeding here. The Oilers right now are just like a freight train that's full speed ahead. And the scary thing is right now is that Connor McDavid, as much as he's taken over tonight, he did not really do much. He was a non-factor. He had no shots on goal. And you got to think that that's not really going to happen for 2 games in a row. So, exactly this. McDavid didn't do anything tonight. So you have to assume in the biggest game of his career in Game 7, he very well might go off. And that's a scary proposition for the Florida Panthers. But, overall, I think that, if the Oilers end up winning this series, you're going to look back to, Game 4 when the Oilers didn't just win. They trounced the Panthers 8-1. And I think that sent a message to the Panthers that they weren't going to roll over. And the Panthers just haven't been able to get it back since then. So Paul Maurice, obviously, we all know he's a great coach. We know he's a great soundbite. You got to think that he's going to try to do everything in his power to kind of turn this around. But man, it's going to be hard. You feel for the guys in that room right now. I mean, clearly they're, I'm sure they're looking around kind of with no answers. But saving grace, like I said, is that they are at home, but I just don't know if it's going to be enough at this point. It just almost feels like destiny that the Oilers are going to get the job done. And they're going to win the Stanley Cup and become the first Canadian team since 1993 when Montreal won the Cup. So, but we'll see. At the very least, we get treated with hockey for a little bit longer. But we do now officially know that the season will end for sure on the 24th. And then hopefully we're treated to a great game though. Hopefully no blowouts. It would be awesome seeing an overtime game. When you're not a fan of either team, that's really exciting. When you are, it's obviously you can't bear to watch. But I think that it should be a good game. I think both teams, there is no more tomorrow at that point. They have nothing else to hold back. They're going to leave it all on the ice, and may the best team win. But right now, like I said, it's just the Oilers have so much momentum. I don't know what Florida is going to have to do to kind of change things around. But first things first, you got to give credit to Stuart Skinner. Before the series, we all talked about how Sergei Bobrovsky is the better goaltender, and that stands true. He certainly is. And through the first 3 games, Bob was a complete wall. These 3 games that just passed, not so much. But Stuart Skinner, we all talk about McDavid as likely going to win the Conn Smythe Trophy. Even if the Oilers lose on Monday, I think he wins it. But I think on the Oilers side, Stuart Skinner is probably second because he's really turned his game around the last 3 games and gave him a shot to win. He's been real good. So definitely give Stuart Skinner some credit. But then the Oilers supporting cast has been really good too. I mean, Matthias Janmark had a fabulous game tonight. He's been real good the last few. McLeod's been good. Adam Henrique, great pickup at the deadline from Anaheim. He's been very good. We talked about in our main show on Wednesdays, how the Panthers are kind of getting contributions from their middle six players, like guys like Evan Rodriguez and Listarainen, um, those such players, Gustav Forsling chipping on in defense. And now the Oilers are getting that same type of production from their bottom six players. And, to win a Stanley Cup, that's what you need. Obviously, coupled with your best players being your best players, but you need the support of your bottom six. And the Edmonton Oilers are certainly getting that right now. So not a fan of but McDavid needs a cup sometime. This guy is going to go down as one of the best players to ever play the game. Getting his first Stanley Cup, I think will probably be the first of what may be many. But like I said, going into Game 7, he got shut down tonight. You got to think that he's going to just go off and try to play the best game of his career. So the Panthers are going to have a hard time shutting him down. But fortunately, they're at home and they can get the matchups again, and hopefully Barkov can work some magic like he did in the first 3 games and shut him down. This is a good point too by John. The first 3 games, the Panthers were like a buzzsaw. I mean, they were all over the ice. They were playing in the Oilers' end. They were winning they were getting to every loose puck. And now, the script has flipped really. The Oilers are the ones that are really suffocating the Panthers, and they're winning those battles along the wall. And it's just funny to see how things flip so quickly. But yeah, I mean, the Oilers, they're bringing a lot of sandpaper and grit to their game too. And the Panthers haven't had an answer. Maybe saying what it came down to, Edmonton didn't make a mistake when they had a breakaway. The Oilers are putting the puck in the net when it matters most. I mean, Zach Hyman had the breakaway. They've had a couple. I think there was a stat tonight that a lot of their goals, I think it was the last 11 and 19 or something along those lines, have all been off the rush. So when the Oilers are coming down the ice and they get an opportunity, the puck's going in the net. And, I don't want to blame Bobrovsky, because Bobrovsky, maybe the 8-1 game, yeah, he got the mercy pull, I think, after the 5th goal. But the last 2 games, I don't really think, Bobrovsky was bad. He just hasn't been playing to the level that he did in the first 3 games and really throughout the playoffs. But we talk about the Panthers needing to get contributions from their main guys. Like Verhaeghe's been a ghost. Sam Reinhart hasn't been pulling his weight. But Bobrovsky's a guy that's going to have to step up in Game 7 if they want to win. I unfortunately, not that he cares, he just wants to win a cup. But I would say that at this point, Bobrovsky lost any shot of winning the Conn Smythe, I think, even if Florida wins. I don't think it will be him. However, it doesn't mean that, he doesn't need to be fantastic in Game 7, because he does. But he was once a favorite for the Conn Smythe, and I think that has kind of gone away over the last couple of games here. B-Rye Panthers might be gassed. Yeah, you know what? I think they are. They're certainly a fatigued team. And I was watching a clip of Mike Rupp on the NHL Network earlier today, and they were talking about the travel and how, yes, both teams are traveling the 25, 100-mile distance. But the difference is, and he brought up a good point, that the Panthers play in the Eastern Conference, which we all know the travel in the Eastern Conference has been, has historically been a lot better than the teams in the Western Conference. And the Panthers haven't really done a whole lot of traveling since March. The Oilers in the West, they're used to traveling a lot. And I think, when it comes down to it, I think that is an advantage for the Oilers. I think the Panthers aren't used to it. And I think it's affecting them for sure. And I do think they're more tired from it than Edmonton. And, again, now they got to make the long trip back. It's going to be whatever team has the fresher legs. But I think the travel's affecting Florida a lot more than the Oilers. I think if they lose the series, firstly, it's going to go down as one of the biggest choke jobs in sports history. I mean, not many teams and across all sports blow a 3-0 lead when you have it in the finals. I mean, you could point to the Yankees, Red Sox in 04, but I mean, that was the ALCS. It wasn't the World Series. I mean, this is the Stanley Cup Final. and the Panthers may end up blowing it. So if they do, I think it's going to go down as one of the worst choke jobs in sports history. So with that said, do you want to have any knee jerk reactions and do anything crazy in the offseason? No, because your team still did make it to the Stanley Cup Final back to back years. Granted, in this hypothetical, they win any of them, but that's still quite the achievement. So if they do blow this, I don't know if they should do, like I said, do anything too drastic, but I do think that there are going to have to be some changes because you can't run it back, especially when you blew a 3-0 lead. So does it change their thinking on re-signing Sam Reinhart with only having one goal in the last couple of games? I mean, maybe, but I think that they probably already made the decision to re-sign him. I think he's going to probably around 9.5 to maybe even 10 million on an AAV. So I think he'll still be back. But yeah, I do think for sure if they lose, they might change their thinking on a couple of players. But again, I don't think they're going to do anything nuts, like for instance, trade Verhage or anything like that. But certainly not a good look though. Again, the Panthers defense, I think they're tired. I think they're worn out. They're, you tell when collecting the puck in the defensive zone, they know they're going to get hit. And sometimes when that happens, combined when you're tired, it makes you hesitate. And when you hesitate in this game, it's so fast, you end up making bad decisions. And look, Forsling's still playing well, but his pairing hasn't been good lately. They're not a plus these last 3 games. They're a minus. But plus minus, I always feel like there's a flaw to that. But no, he hasn't been as good. Ekblad hasn't been that good. Montour hasn't been that good. But when a team at the Oilers is playing so well, it's easy to make the other team's defense look bad. So they haven't been hard, but they certainly haven't been playing anything close that they did in the first 3 games. Again, another question. It's hard to make it to the Stanley Cup Finals. It's really hard to make it there 2 years in a row, and it's really really hard to make it 3 years in a row. I mean, the Lightning let's do it 3 in a row, and they lost the third time. But you feel for Maurice. I mean, he's been in this league for so long. He's a great guy. He's a great coach. So does he get there again? I don't know. That's too hard to say. But he's a guy that he gets paid the big bucks as a coach for a reason. He's going to have to get him motivated to play the most important game of their lives on Monday. There's where when you're I don't know why I can't click and show this comment right now, but Davey's saying there you go. A little bit of a lag. When you're a Vezina goalie gets hit with 5 goals, it means your defenseman sucked. Yeah, a little bit of both. I mean, granted, just because you're a Vezina Trophy winner doesn't mean you can't, have a couple of bad games, but the Panthers' defense isn't helping them out at any stretch of the imagination. But Bob's always been a streaky goalie. He kind of has some years where he's like he wins a Vezina. He has 2 of them. They'll be sandwiched between years where you look at it and people are talking like he's done, which happened just a year ago. People talking about the Panthers need to get rid of him. And then last year he bounced back and was great and took him to the Stanley Cup Final. So I think Bob has the ability to, flip the switch again on Monday and shut it down. And he's really going to have to do that if the Panthers want to win, because like I said, the Oilers have all the momentum right now, and McDavid was a non-factor tonight, and you just have the feeling that McDavid's going to go off on Monday. So they're going to need Bob to stand tall. And yeah, and this is true too. As I alluded, when in these situations when you're not a fan of either team, you can kind of just sit back, relax, and enjoy watching some intense playoff hockey. But when your team's playing it just sometimes it just makes you want to throw up. You get it's so much anxiety and stress. But you got to feel for the Panther fans right now because 1 minute you're up 3-0, you're giddy, thinking, oh, we're going to win the first Stanley Cup in our franchise history, and it's like, we lose 1. What are the chances we're going to lose again? And, you're confident. And now that has just been sucked out of you. So if you're a Panthers fan right now, you're miserable. And, if you're an Oilers fan on the flip side, you're down 3-0 and you're saying to yourself, even if the most optimistic of a fan, you're saying to yourself, "Oh, well, this sucks. It's over. We had a good run, and now you're tired, and you're at the top of the world right now, and with excitement." So, two polar opposites how the fan bases are feeling right now, and like I said, Monday, it's those fans are going to be clenching their what watching that game. Zero Cool saying, which I don't know if it's the first time I've seen in one of our streams, but welcome. Panthers will make history on Monday, the biggest choke in NHL history. Yeah, it's true. Like I just saying before, I mean, this is going to go down as one of the biggest, choke jobs in pro sports history if they lose. Or on the flip side, they're going to win a Stanley Cup. So it's going to be quite the polar opposite of feeling come Tuesday morning for the Panthers and their fans. You're either going to be celebrating a cup or you're just going to want to stick your head in the sand after blowing a 3-0 lead and losing in the final. So um, I wouldn't want to be them right now with the anticipation of that game coming up. Been a Ranger fan, go Oilers. Yeah, I get it. It's when your team gets pretty close and you get beat. It's human nature, I think, to want to kind of root for the team that knocked your team out. So I understand that feeling. Oilers have too many weapons for Bob to flip a switch. Yeah, I mean that's true. McDavid, Draisaitl, two of the best players in the world. But if you look, I mean, he did it the first 3 games, so I get what you're saying, but it is possible. He is a Vezina winning goalie. He's capable of stealing games. He's just got to get in the zone, and his team has played better hockey in front of him. Yeah, and this is another thing. What a story by Knobloch. This year, beginning of the year, he's coaching in the AHL, and then he takes over a team that was really struggling at one point. I think they were 30th in the league, and now he's 1 win away from winning a Stanley Cup. So talk about a whirlwind, but good for him. And you knew that it was only a matter of time before he got a chance to coach the NHL level. I mean, he was one of those guys in the AHL ranks that was widely viewed as the next guy ready to get a spot in the NHL. So I think we all saw it coming that he was eventually going to be an NHL head coach. And good for him because he's done wonders for the Edmonton Oilers, and also too, good on him on. And I guess it's also the video coaches, but good on him for challenging that play because, as close as that was gutsy, because if that call doesn't go that way, and now it's 2-1, and then you just put the Panthers on the power play, and that could have changed the whole trajectory of the game. So. That was a really really crucial moment. And again, he got good feedback from his video coaches, but that was just so close. We were talking about it in our group chat with Mark, myself, Mark, and Phil, and it's that call. I look at it 2 ways because it was so close. Like when you have to literally zoom in that with that much you know magnifying to look at it, it's almost to the point where it's like just let it stand. But then on the flip side, offsides is offsides, whether it's by a mile or a centimeter. So if you let that call stand, you're kind of affecting the integrity of offside. So I get why they had to reverse it. But I would like to see what Arthur Staples suggested, what he tweeted afterwards. If on entries, once the puck is on the blue line, it should be counted as in the zone because these half an inch and stuff, it was that close. It literally could have gone either way. So I get why Paul Maurice was just absolutely blowing a gasket on the bench when that call got overturned because it was just so close. And he has the right to be upset, but it's something that it's not going to go away. They're not going to get rid of the offside review. I just wish there was a way to kind of change it because again, when you have to look that closely at it, maybe it's stand, but I get why you have to call it offsides. But if you're a Panthers fan, that one certainly hurt. Um, and yes, that is true. His first win did come against the Islanders. I certainly remember that. Chris is saying if the Oilers win, this will also prove an overpaid goalie can't win at all. Yeah, I mean, you look at some of the previous Cup winner goalies. I mean, you had Binnington, you had Darcy Kemper, you had Aiden Hill. None of those guys were considered elite goalies. So you don't. And if the Oilers win, that just proves it's Stuart Skinner. So yeah, that definitely is true. But it certainly does help to have an upper echelon goalie. And if the Panthers do lose, though, it's not. This isn't on Bobrovsky. It's. I think it's really on the team getting spanked in game 4, 8-1, and really not having an answer to turn the tide after that. So, um, you know, in a way, I feel for Bobrovsky because this is a guy, like I said before, he was on trajectory to win the Conn Smythe, and now he's likely not going to win it. I wouldn't say likely. I would say he's probably definitely not winning it, and now that he may not win a cup either. So tough on him, but uh, he plays the most crucial position in the sport, and he's, like I said before, he's going to have to bounce back in Game 7. Not Black, the coach, the Rangers. Yeah, there was some thought that the Rangers weren't going to let him go, but I guess after they hired Laviolette, they knew at that point that they didn't really need him in the organization anymore because Laviolette was going to be there for a long time. So at that point, they gave permission and just let him go. But he could have been a good option for the Rangers, but they opted to go with a veteran coach, and I think it worked out for both teams because clearly the Oilers may win a Stanley Cup, and the Rangers had one of their best regular seasons in recent history, and Laviolette's going to be there for a long time. Speaking of Gerard Gallant, there's a chance that he could be in the running for the Columbus Blue Jackets coach after they parted ways with Pascal Vincent. So we'll see how that goes. Same if you're looking to a great goalie without defenders, Brodeur and Waugh. Yeah, the Brodeur and Waugh debate is similar to like Lemieux, Gretzky. Who is the best? You could say Brodeur played against stacked defense and a team that played a trap, which is true. I mean that's accurate, but still, I mean he still is one of the best goalies of all time, and you can make a case that he was better than Waugh. But me personally, I would take Hasek over both of them, but that's neither here or there. Are you saying this as if they happen to hire Gallant? Yeah, Gallant didn't work out for the Rangers, but if you look, a lot of coaches in National Hockey League these days are retreads. They fail somewhere and they go somewhere else and they get another shot. So he may not have been good for the Rangers, but he could go to a Columbus team and and thrive. So we'll see what happens there. But I would have to imagine with the draft, in what 7 days now, that the Blue Jackets would want to name a coach, in pretty short order here. This is. I mean, I think the answer to that is just, I mean, Brodeur kind of, he played for so long, so that's part of the reason why. But he holds so many records for goalies with wins and shutouts. And then Waugh has all the cups. I think that's probably why they get more kind of nods for being the best goalie of all time. But I mean, Hasek came in and he played that unorthodox style, and he was certainly a goalie in that era that was a lot different than what you typically see. But he was just so fun to watch, Hoskey, with the windmill saves. And I mean, at the top of his game, I mean, there's a reason why they called him the Dominator, because he absolutely dominated the position. I was a huge fan of Hasek. But yeah, I'm just happy that we get to see hockey a little bit longer. Game 7, they say it's the two best worst in all the sports, and especially when it's going to determine the Stanley Cup. So I'm happy for that, and it's going to be a little sad that the season's ending, but the Monday's the 24th, and after that, the draft is 4 days later on the 28th, and then free agency is 3 days after that. So there's going to be a lot of action. Um, my opinion, is some of the best times of the year for hockey with all the transactions. Fans love it, so it's going to be action packed. Hell, I mean, we already saw it was on Wednesday with all the crazy stuff went down. It was almost like it was the off season already with the Dubois trade, Goudreau getting bought out. It was a pretty active day, and I think you're going to see a lot more of that in the next couple of days. And what you all know, myself and Mark will be out in Vegas for the draft. I was fortunate enough to get my credential by the NHL approved, so I will be on the draft floor on Friday, and Mark will be in. And you're right. You're correct. My mistake. Yes, he was waived. He would have probably been bought out if he didn't clear, but you're right. He was waived. He was not bought out. But I will be on the draft floor. Mark will be in attendance as a fan, kind of networking. So we're really excited about that. It's going to be a busy couple of days, and so I'm looking forward to it. I covered one NHL draft before. It was in 2018. It was in Dallas. It was a lot of fun. So looking forward to doing it again at the Sphere. Never been to the Sphere before, so Mark and I are excited, and hopefully we can bring you guys some really good coverage. I know we're kind of still working out logistically how we're going to do it, but make sure to tune in as we're going to have a big presence out there for the draft. Yeah, thank you. Like I said, we're certainly looking forward to it as well. I know Phil, unfortunately, isn't able to make it out there with us, so I think draft day he's going to do some sort of stream. As the draft goes, maybe with Stat Boy Steven too. And then I gotta confer with Mark how we're going to do it while we're there. But um, definitely going to have a lot of fun. Yeah, I'll make sure I babysit Mark, but yeah, no, I'm going to be on the inside on the floor, so I won't be able to control what he's doing in the stands. But I'm sure he's gonna make sure he has all his eggs in the right basket and focus on the work aspect of it. But it certainly will be a lot of fun. This is how it's been the last couple of years. It's just the timeline. I mean, a lot of people have kind of like said that season really should end like in early June. Like the cup should be awarded like the first week, and you have more time to kind of decompress and kind of make your draft planning for teams. And I think that's why you saw so much activity the other day, is because a lot of these teams were like, look, we don't want to wait to the end of the finals. It's like 4 days after they need to start doing their planning, and for them, the off season's here. They're tired of waiting, and um, the only way you'll get back more of like it used to be with some more time in between is if you started the season earlier. But I don't know if Gary Bettman and the league has any desire to do that. But for us though, for hockey fans, it's kind of cool because it's like I said before, it's almost action. The cup's going to be awarded, then shortly after that you have the draft and free agency, so that leads to a lot of activity. So um, it's certainly fun for us, but I would say that the teams and general managers hate it. Uh, but again, I don't know if we're going to see a change anytime soon unless the league really has like a change in philosophy and starts the season earlier and ends earlier. But um, I guess, like I said, it is what it is at this point, right? Yeah, that would be hilarious. Actually, if we run into Lou, but I mean, it's actually a really good shot that I certainly do. Not sure about Mark, but if I happen to see Lou, I hope to be a part of the his post draft media scrum, being that I'll have the credential, and then I'm part of the fourth period covering the Islanders. So, um, you know. Uh, if I get an opportunity to interview him, I'll definitely cherish that and hopefully ask a good question. Um, how about saying, as an NY guy whose family Fort Lauderdale, Sunrise, it's the Panthers arena. Yeah, the you don't want the Panthers to be the 2-0-4 Yankees. Yeah, and honestly, I was saying before that I think the Panthers, this would be so much worse because, the Yankees, Red Sox, that was the ALCS. It wasn't the World Series. I mean, this is the Stanley Cup Final. So um, if the Panthers lose this, it's going to be real bad. Like I said, it's going to rank up there with one of the more choke jobs in professional sports. I would say definitely top five. You can make a case if it happens, it'll be day one. I don't think Mark ever wants to happen to see Lou in person. I think he's terrified of the one time that I messed with Mark and gave him Lou's number and told him it was someone else. So ever since then, he's always terrified when I make a joke about calling Big Lou. So I don't know if that will happen. And going back to this, the Rangers waiving Barclay Goodrow, it was Larry. I think it was Larry Brooks reported that Goodrow was upset with how the Rangers did that because he apparently had the Sharks on his NTC list, and the Rangers found a way to work around that by waiving him. So I suppose he has the right to be upset, but at the end of the day, it's a business and the Rangers had to do what's best for him, but he's certainly not happy. But at the end of the day, though, too, he's been in San Jose before, so maybe that might help a little bit. He's played for the organization, but that's got to be tough, though. You go to a team that was a Stanley Cup contender and likely will even be one next year, and now he's playing for a team in San Jose Sharks that is going through a brutal rebuild. So. Unfortunate for him, but fortunate for the Rangers as that gives them more cap space to play with. And I don't and also don't be surprised too. In the same vein, like Chris Drury just re-signed Kako. I won't be surprised if Kako is still dealt. He only it was a 1 year qualifying offer, so it's like the money's not high and it's just 1 year. I think actually that gives him more trade value rather than trading his rights. I mean, teams at least know the contract that he has, so don't be surprised if Drury still looks to move him. And I think it's going to be a very active offseason for the Rangers going forward here. So not quite sure what they're going to do, but I one thing I can say is I think they're going to certainly be in the mix for a goal scorer, particularly a right wing. Whether that be they try to reunite with Patrick Kane or they go after Jonathan Marchessault or Tyler Toffoli, Jake Gensel. I think they're going to be in on all those guys. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, and this is true too. Gaudreau got a contract that probably he shouldn't have got. I think we all agreed it was too many years and a little bit of an overpayment. But um, that's like I said, it's a business though. He could be upset. He has the right to, but he has to understand that the Rangers, what they did was totally within the rights of the CBA. They found a little bit of a loophole, and they used it. So nothing you can do about that. Kako needs to stay. Yeah. Um, I think a lot of Rangers fans kind of split on Kako. You see what, Laviolette did for Lafreniere. He really broke out, and maybe giving Kako one more year isn't the worst thing. But I guess the risk you run is even right now, Kako's trade value is probably at an all-time low. If you were to happen to have another year like he did this year, then he just lost all trade value completely, and at that point, you're literally going to get nothing for him. So, but I guess that's the risk that Drury is possibly willing to take. So we'll see how it plays out. You know what? I think for a team that is a Stanley Cup contender and wants to take that next step and get to the final, I don't know if you can pass on trying to get an established scorer because you think Austin or Pearl might be ready. I think that Drury's going to show some patience with these guys, especially Perot. I mean, Othman might make the team this year, but I don't know if they're going to thrust them in immediately in a top line role. So, uh, I think that they're going to try to get an established player to fill that role rather than rush a prospect. Not, it wasn't really like a loophole. I was just saying, like, because Barclay Goodrow had the Sharks on his, on his NTC, and he would have never accepted a trade there. But the Rangers worked around that by waiving him, knowing that the Sharks had interest in him. So that's why it's kind of like a loophole. But again, they didn't do anything wrong, and Chris Drury's still getting his millions. He just has to play for a rebuilding team now. You want a defensive defenseman? Chris Tanev, he comes to mind as a defensive defenseman. Brandon Montour's out there, but he's more offense. Brady Shea, all offense. So if you want a strictly defensive defenseman, I think Chris Tanev is probably one of the better ones on the market. Guy that's used to playing in the West, Calgary, Vancouver. I'm not really sure where he's going to land. I haven't really heard too many rumors on him, but I could see the Rangers being in the mix there. BR saying fans won dealt last season. That is certainly true. Even me, I'll eat some crow. I've been hard on Lafreniere. I said that he wasn't producing like he should. And he kind of broke through this season. I mean, granted, he still had about 50 something points. That's good. Typically for first overall, you probably want to see him a little higher, maybe like 70 or so, but he's on the right track, and I think he can get there actually. And what impressed me was in the playoffs, he was one of the Rangers' best players, while Zibanejad and Panarin no-showed in the later rounds. Lafreniere was consistent all the way through. Yeah, wicked, but I actually think that there is a really good shot that Pajot gets traded in the next week. Lou Lamoriello acquired that extra second round pick from Chicago for a reason. I could tell you that he's looking to shed a contract, and everything tells me that player is Pajot. Now, with that said, I can tell you that he's kind of shopping Lee around a little bit. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he would trade Lee. But I think Pajot, if you were a betting man, Pajot is the one you would bet. With that said, though, after seeing how the Kings traded Dubois when he has 7 years left on his contract, 8.5, that changes my thinking on Lee going into the offseason. I kind of said 2 years left, $7 million, that chances are you're not going to be able to move Lee. I think you could now, seeing that Dubois was moved. So we'll see how it plays out. But my money is on Pajot getting moved. And, Pajot moving would be huge for the Islanders because, right now, when you take Gauthier off the roster because Cap Friendly has him on, but when camp rolls around, he's not going to be on the team. So they'll have just a little more than $6 million in cap space to play with. If they move Pajot and that number goes to 12 and a half, I think they'll have the cap space to actually really make some big changes. So, but again, that's contingent on moving Pajot, and I think they absolutely have to do that by the draft leading up to free agency because if Pajot's still on the roster on July 1st, it could handcuff Lou with what he does, going forward there. Even though you are allowed to be over the cap by 10% in the offseason, that's not how he operates. I think he'd prefer to have that contract moved just so he knows for sure what he's got going forward. I think if Pajot's moved, I think that he's going to try to bring in a top six player, because if you look at the first line, you have two legitimate first liners in Bo Horvat and Matt Barzal, who both had fantastic seasons. But the third member on that line was a rotating door. They tried Lee for a little bit. They tried Gauthier for a little bit. They ended with Zizekas there. I think Waugh and Lou Lamoriello both know that they need a more reliable player on that top line. So my guess, target-wise, similar players to the Rangers, minus Gensel. I don't think the Islanders are going to be in on Gensel, but if Marchessault makes it to free agency, I think they're going to call him. Lou coached Marchessault for 4 years in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, so there's the relationship there. So I can easily, see Waugh, telling Lou that he thinks that we should, try to recruit him. Tyler Toffoli, I think they'll have interest in Tyler Toffoli. I think Anthony Duclair on a lesser scale, I think they'll show interest in him. Not a free agent, but through trade, I think Nikolai Ehlers will be a potential target. So those are just some of the players that I think the Islanders will try to get if they move Pajot. Just going to go for a couple more minutes here. Unfortunately, Phil wasn't able to join me, and Mark's at work, but just wanted to do a quick stream after seeing the Oilers do something that hasn't happened since 1945. But a little bit of news. I referenced it on our last show on Wednesday. I have been afforded the opportunity to work for the Hockey News, to be a beat writer for the Vegas Golden Knights. So I'm excited for the opportunity. I have full credentials to cover the team and have access to the players. Now, granted, you're gonna say I'm here on Long Island. How's that work? Only going to be on their beat for the summertime, and then probably sometime in July or August they're going to move me to a market that's more doable for me, actually going to games. So I don't know that team yet. Might be Pittsburgh. I'm not really sure. Unfortunately for the Islanders, Stefan Rosner for the Hockey News is in place, so he does a great job there. So he's not going anywhere. And then I think the Rangers are all set for the Hockey News as well. So both the New York teams aren't an option, but could land with the Devils or Pittsburgh. So we'll see what happens. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Yeah, I think so, because just like when I started working for the fourth period, I could because prior to that I would write articles for the Islanders on our website at Big Apple Hockey. But once I came aboard with them, they said that all my all Islander related stuff I write would be exclusive to them. So, but they didn't have a problem with staying at Big Apple Hockey. So I would imagine it'll be the same thing where, as long as my Islander content doesn't, obviously go to the Hockey News, they won't care. So I'm pretty sure I could still do both. So we'll see what happens though. But yeah, I'm excited for it. That's why being out in Vegas for the draft next week is good, being that I'm on their beat and it's in Vegas, so I should have a opportunity to do some good stuff out there with talking to some of the Vegas people. And I was telling Mark, it's kind of funny. It's like, so my credential for the draft is actually Big Apple Hockey, so we got approved for our own entity, but on the flip side, I'm still part of the fourth period, and now I'm with the Hockey News. So I feel like I'm being pulled in three different directions. Like while I'm there, I don't know what to report on. But nonetheless, though, it's just gonna be cool being there and seeing everybody and kind of just taking it all in. It's always been my dream to kind of be in media and stuff. So I'm really pumped for it, and hopefully, it's just the beginning of good things here. Yeah, you know what, the Devils are a team where if that's what works out, they're realistically close enough where like I could go to like every game. I mean, it would be a pain in the ass driving back from Newark every night at 10:30. That's at least doable. Like if they put me on the Pittsburgh beat, then that's different. That's clearly wouldn't be able to go to every game. I would try to just make maybe a couple a month. But it wouldn't that certainly would be really hard to do. But yeah, you're right. The Devils would be the best case scenario. I would suppose. Um, that That is true. And I know, honestly, when I did with Mark, actually, it was during the preseason. We had a credential for the Devils to cover a game. Wasn't really that bad, honestly. Getting in, it was just getting out. Like even the Stadium Series game at MetLife, that was brutal. Leaving, it was going in was fine, but leaving that day, it was like took forever. But it's the price you pay, right? Oh man, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Yeah, I've never. Every time I've gone to New Jersey, whether it been the old Meadowlands or the Rock or MetLife, I've never taken the train. I've always uh, driven it, but I guess that's taking the train certainly saved on gas and whatnot. But and then there's the question about paying for travel expenses, which I haven't got into them yet. So I mean, if they cover that, then I really don't mind which avenue gets me there. And that's certainly true, Matt. Right? Nothing comes easy. It's always going to be something, and you just have to deal with it. So I'm just like I said, I'm just fortunate and happy that afforded that opportunity. So, um, but again, we'll see what happens. And in the time being, I'm just going to enjoy being on the Vegas beat during the summertime. It's nice and easy. You don't have to worry about traveling anywhere and just getting the experience. So hopefully, I can get. I already actually got my first story up earlier today. It's on the Golden Knights hockey news site. It's about can they land Mitch Marner, because Elliot Friedman last week said that heard that Vegas will be at the forefront for Mitch Marner, and not surprising, right? That team somehow manages a way to be in the mix for every top player that becomes available. So I just wrote about that, but I hope to next piece get some insights from the general manager and where things stand with their free agents in Marchessault and uh, Chandler Stevenson, some other things. So we'll see what happens there. Yeah, Columbus is even that's the thing. Columbus is even further than Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh's Pennsylvania, but it's the western part of the state that's actually pretty close to Ohio. So Columbus would be even further away. But I mean, yeah, whatever they want, whatever team they want to put me on, that's fine. I'll gladly do it. It's just like those teams, Pittsburgh, Columbus. It would be impossible to go to every single game. So I'll have to work that out with them. Maybe just like I said, do a couple a month. Yeah, I mean this is a great question. They like I said, they're always in the mix. Whether Mark Stone, through trade, Noah Hannafin through trade. They signed Peter Angelo. They traded for Tomas Hertl, which was the shock of the trade deadline last year. Just some teams ownership. They have a great owner. He wants to win. He wants star power. He'll do whatever it takes to get the player he wants. And you pay a price though, right? I mean, look how many years that the Vegas has traded a guy that they had just just drafted in the first round. So they're ruthless in that regard, and they'll make a move and then figure it out later. So Yeah, and like Jack Eichel too. It's probably the biggest one that slipped my mind. But um, yeah, I think for Vegas, they're going to have Robin Leonard on LTIR again, so that leaves them with like a little over $6 million in cap space. So realistically, all they would have to do, and I wrote about it in the article, but if they were, let's say, move out Shea Theodore and Nicholas Waugh in that trade for Marner, um, they can actually make that deal and have a little over 3 million left in cap space after it. So um, that's the magic of having a guy that you could store on LTIR, some extra money to play with. And in Robin Leonard's case, from what I understand, I don't think he's ever playing again either. So they don't even have to worry about what happens when he comes back. The guy's done. So um, if they want to make it happen, they can make it happen. Um, Really, the biggest hurdle is Mitch Marner waiving his no movement clause, because right now the word is that he wants to stay in Toronto. So, we'll see. And this is the kind of the argument I got into Mark about. And for you regulars, you know what I'm talking about when he's talking about how Mika Zibanejad would never waive his no movement clause, and it's like, yeah, guys, yes, they have no movement clauses for a reason, but at the same time, I think it's human nature when you're told that you're not wanted. Chances are you're going to be like, all right, well then, yeah, sure, move me somewhere where I could still win, and that team wants me. So, and that's what I think they're going to try to do with Marner. I think the Maple Leafs are going to try to paint him into a corner and say, look, either way, whether it's now or next summer when you walk in free agency, it's the end of the road here. So the Maple Leafs have certain things they could do to try to convince Marner to waive his no movement clause. Um, and again, if you're Mitch Marner, you look at it like this: you're getting paid close to $11 million right now. Next year you're going to get 11 or $12 million from whatever team that re-signs you. So, I mean, why would you not want to go to Vegas or a place like that, especially where there's no state income tax? You're on a good team. You're in a place with no state income tax, a fabulous climate. Great place to live. That's why I think that as long as it's a team that he's agreeable to, I don't see why he would be like, no, I'm not waiving. I'm staying here. So, um, I think Marner will waive if the Maple Leafs approach him. The deal that they find suitable. So, um, with that said, I don't think Mitch Marner is going to waive his no moving clause for just anybody. I think if I had to guess, it'll probably only be for a select few teams, maybe like 6 teams that he'll go to. But we'll see what happens there. Um, and Mike, you know what? Yeah, he has been scapegoated, but I think the other issue with it too is it's like you have make change there. It hasn't worked with that core four, and you're obviously not trading Matthews, Nylander, who you just re-signed. John Tavares, has 1 year left, and he's older and has no movement clause. He's the captain, so you're probably not going to likely get him to move. And if you did, no, I mean, the return on John Tavares isn't going to be a lot. So Mitch Marner makes the most sense. You'd get the most from him, and he's the easiest to move realistically. So aside from being scapegoated, I just think it works out where it just makes the most sense to move him, especially because his contract's going to be up more after next year. So um, it just makes sense for the Leafs to do it. And um, if by chance he does, he stays steadfast and he says no. Um, I wouldn't want to be Brad Treliving, because then that means you're bringing back the same team. Because without trading any of the core four or Morgan Riley, there's no other like big move that you can make that's going to change the makeup of that team. You're going to run into the same exact problem again next spring, which is they're going to lose in the first round, and that's just, I know we call it a hot take, but that's just what it is. I don't see how anything changes in Toronto if those 4 players stay there for another year. Because look what they did last year. Last year, they tried to change the players around them, right? Like they added Tyler Bertuzzi, they added Max Domi. They tried to get grittier, and it still didn't work. They still lost in the first round. So, me personally, if I were a Maple Leafs fan and nothing and that doesn't change, I'd be really disappointed going into the offseason because how do you have any confidence that anything's going to be different? Um, Glad you brought up goaltending because I actually, you know what, that's the one thing I guess you could say that they could do that if by keeping the core 4 that maybe things would be better. For instance, if they keep the core 4 and let's just say they somehow find a way to acquire UC Saros, then maybe that would work and you give it one last hurrah. But then that's also unrealistic because I would say there's probably a slim to none chance the Maple Leafs can acquire a goaltender as good as UC Saros and not give up a Mitch Marner or not give up a high end piece. I don't see how Nashville would agree to that. Is there a slim chance that maybe like first round pick and Matthew Nyes and maybe like someone along those lines and another prospect gets it done? Maybe, but I would doubt it. Any chance to buy out Tavares? No, and I'll tell you why. Because his buyout, they don't save any money because he got paid so much of his money in signing bonuses that his contract is buyout proof. They literally would not save like anything on the cap. So that's why I say there's about no chance they buy out Tavares because it doesn't save them anything. Yeah, and in a perfect world, you would. Like a Marner for Saros. I know that move has kind of been talked about by hockey fans and pundits. But I don't know. I think Marner is the type of player that Nashville has needed for a long time. I just don't know if Barry Trotz is ready to pull the trigger on Saros yet without seeing Askarov in action for at the NHL level for an extended period of time. So from what I hear, Ullmark has been linked to the Ottawa Senators. Actually, I think there's a chance that Ullmark could end up in Ottawa. And you asked the question, why would he wait for Ottawa? But how he reportedly, nixed the deal to LA at the trade deadline. It's all preference. Ullmark is a Swede, and from what I understand, Ottawa is an area that I think feels more at home than, let's say, going to LA. So he may actually prefer a place like Ottawa. So we'll have to see what happens there. But yeah, he's being linked to the Senators. Not sure what I know. New Jersey kicked the tires on him before they traded for Markstrom, but I don't know what other destinations Ullmark could realistically be in for right now. Haven't heard anything about Ullmark blocking a move to Toronto. So I can't speak to that. But yeah, Ullmark in Toronto would be a great addition for him. But again, who's Toronto going to give up for him? That's the question. Or I saying Panthers Game 7, Cardiac Kids. Yeah, if the Panthers win Game 7, then I think Rio lead. But man, if they don't, like I said, it's going to go down as one of the worst choke jobs in sports history. Maple Leaf fans would riot. Darnell Nurse is severely overpaid. I know he's playing banged up, but he has struggled in the finals, and that would be a move that I think would probably get Trey Living fired on the spot. And yeah, exactly. Toronto should want no part of Darnell Nurse. Um, yeah, it's. I think a Mitch Marner trade can kind of go in a couple of different directions. I think, and I've said this before. I think that this will either be um, a trade like the Taylor Hall for Adam Larson trade, like a 1-for-1 where Marner is traded for a equally or almost equal skill level in a defenseman, or you're going to see him traded for like a goalie. What I don't see happening is the Maple Leafs. As we all know, they're in win now, right? So I think we can all count out the possibility of Marner being traded for a package that includes picks and prospects. Um, that I just don't see happening, just because the Maple Leafs are trying to win now. And then also too, from the financial part of it, um, obviously picks are picks, and then prospects are either not on NHL rosters yet or making like league minimum. And Marner makes like close to $11 million. That wouldn't work for the team trading him either, salary wise. So um, that's why, yeah, I think if Mitch Marner's traded, it's going to be for like a high end defenseman or a goalie. Um, like someone like I just mentioned Saros, that does make sense. Generally speaking, again, I needed to deal Saros yet, but that's the type of move that I could see, Mitch Marner going for. For the Islanders' point of view, because I get a lot of questions about that. Can the Islanders acquire Mitch Marner? And to that, I say probably not. And the reason for that is twofold. One, the Islanders are not trading uh, Ilya Sorokin, nor should they. Uh, and they also aren't going to trade Noah Dobson. They're just not going to do it. Those are the two players that I think that Toronto would want for Mitch Marner, and with both those guys off the table, I don't see how a deal gets done. And rightfully so, especially in Dobson's case, because Dobson's a 24-year-old defenseman who just scored 70 points, and a lot of times in hockey, you hear people say like, you know, defensemen are high-end defensemen are more valuable than a forward like Mitch Marner, and it's true. Noah Dobson at his age, only 24, still getting better, cost controlled for more year. He's one more year left, and then he's going to be an RFA. Just asset management wise, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, you're gonna trade a guy making a little over $4 million. I mean, granted, he's going to get a huge raise after that, but the fact is, he's still in the contract for one more year at an incredible value, and you're going to trade him for a guy who's making 11, and then you have to extend him for 11 or 12 going forward. So yeah, it's just trading Dobson doesn't really make much sense. As much as Mitch Marner would help the Islanders out, yeah, you just don't trade a Noah Dobson. This I have a little pushback on, Wicked, and I think too many people kind of like go back to that old mantra like, oh, no one wants to play for the Islanders or whatnot. It's not true anymore. I mean, things are so much better here. Like, Bo Horvat didn't even play a game on the island. He was gonna be the top free agent class if he would have hit the market. And he re-signed with the Islanders before even playing a game here. So um, I think Mitch Marner would come to the island. I mean, it's a great place to live when you have a lot of money. Brand new building. It's the New York market. He's BFF with Matt Martin, so Matt Martin has probably told him good things about the island in the past. So I actually think Marner would come to New York. I just don't think the Islanders are going to put up the pieces that it would take. That's just my opinion. Um, that's a good question. Jacob Chikrin, I think would certainly help the Islanders, but um, I mean, you already have. I think Chikrin actually could play both sides. If I'm correct, I think he play the left and the right, but predominantly plays the left. And with the Islanders, you have Pelech and Romanov on the left side already. So I think Chikrin. I don't know. I don't know if it's necessarily a need. Now, what I will say is, if the Islanders were able to move Adam Pelech, because I think his game has fallen off a little bit, he's injury prone. If you could trade Adam Pelech for a forward, let's say, and then you go out and acquire Jacob Chikrin, that's a move that I think would help the team. But without moving a current defenseman, I'm not sure the Islanders are going to be in the market for Chikrin. But I have heard Chikrin linked to the Flyers. There have been rumors that the Senators and the Flyers are talking trade, and that he could possibly be going to Philly. So we'll see what happens there. Yeah, I mean, everyone talks about Lou's age, and it's true. He's over 80. But if Lou were to leave the Islanders, it's not because of his age. It would just be because I think they just need like a fresh face that kind of views the game differently. You know, not to get political here, but like Lou is not like Joe Biden. He's not the guy's not shot. Like he's still he's still with it. He knows what he's doing. But yeah, at some point you would think that the guy's going to hang him up because how much longer does he really want to even keep doing it? But um, at the very least, he's going to be here for one more year. Going forward, I don't know. I could see a scenario where this is his last year, and then he hands the reins off to someone else. But again, that's just conjecture. I don't know. He could stay around for a couple more years. I don't know, but at the very least, he's going to be the Islanders general manager for this coming season. No. Um, Yeah, I get the sentiment. They were the bridesmaid with Panarin. It looked like he was going to come to the Islanders, and then no. And then you heard the chatter on Gaudreau, Nazem Kadri. It's like they're always close, but never get it over the finish line. So we'll see if that changes this year. Yes and no. Look, I mean, there's no doubt the Islanders need to get better offensively. They absolutely do. But I mean, they had an 80-point player in Barzell. Bo Horvat had a really good year. Brock Nelson was within shouting distance of 40 goals again. So they have offensively talented players. The problem is they just don't have enough of them. So to say no offense, I don't agree with. They need more? Yes, for sure. But they do have guys that have offensive skill in their lineup. They just need more of them. They have right now. The issue is they have too many bottom six players, like the Hudson Fashings of the world, and Casey Zizekas and Julian Gauthier, and all these players. Like they're too similar. They need more. They need more goal scoring. Nothing concrete on Zegras. Just what's been out there is that the Ducks aren't necessarily shopping him, but if the right deal came along, they would be open to moving him. Um, I don't know if he gets moved. I think someone would have to give the Ducks a really good offer. But with that said, I also wouldn't be surprised. And yeah, Engvall's perfect. There was no need to give him a 6-year contract. There really wasn't. You know, 3 years would have been fine. I felt there's just no need to give him 6 years. And I mean, the money isn't high. It's just that the term is just bad. We've kind of speculated this on our main show. Again, it's all speculation, nothing that obviously Verbeek would never say anyway. But I think the impression that some people get is that Verbeek feels that Zegers isn't guy that you win with. That he's too much just like more concerned about being flashy and scoring highlight reel goals, and he's a guy that doesn't go to like dirty areas, and if you want to call him a little soft. So I think that's just kind of like the vibe that some people get that Verbeek has regarding Zegras. But he's a younger player. As you get older, you mature, you play the game differently. There's no doubt he has tons of skill. Whether or not he can kind of challenge that into becoming a more complete player, that's on him. But I'm gonna go for about like 2 more minutes, fellas. I gotta hit the sack. My brother-in-law is getting married tomorrow, so it's gonna be a long day. So, which should feature a lot of adult beverages that I'm looking forward to. But gonna get some shut eye in a little bit. The last update I had on Laine was that Don Waddell said that he's still in the player assistance program, but doctors are close to clearing him, and that he hopes that the Blue Jackets wouldn't have to retain any salary on him. I think that's wishful thinking on his end. I don't think any team is going to take on the full value of Laine when you consider the fact that he's had the reputation of being a lazy player. He's been very injury prone, and on top of that, he is in the player assistance program. So, I mean, kudos to Waddell. If he can move Laine without retaining any salary, I would be shocked. But I would assume that they're going to have to retain some dollars on him to move him. And buyer beware on him for all the reasons that I just stated. Really good player, really talented, has hell of a shot, natural goal scorer. He scares me a little bit. So in my UFA predictions that I made for our channel, which Mark hasn't posted all of them yet, I had Brett Pesce landing in Nashville. I just feel like he's a Barry Trotz player. He blocks a lot of shots. He's your typical defensive defenseman, stay at home. Wouldn't be a crazy far move from Carolina. So that's just my guess, but I think there's going to be a lot of suitors for Brent Pesce if he reaches free agency. And yeah, I get why you and others would be interested in Laine because he has that high end skill. It's just for me, his AAV combined with everything he has going on, it just worries me a little bit. But again, Laine, let's say 50% retained, then that's totally a different story. But again, Waddell doesn't seem like he wants to retain salary, so we'll see how that pans out. And exactly, he would be a perfect replacement for Ryan McDonagh. But all right, guys, so I'm gonna head out. It was nice chatting with you for the last a little over an hour. We'll be back on Wednesday with our main show, and then, like I said, watch out for us as we'll be flying out 8:00 from JFK to Vegas. So we'll get there late Thursday night, and then Friday morning we'll be doing a couple of different things, and then the draft at night, and then day 2 at the Sphere on Saturday. So make sure you tune into us on a big show with Phil and Mark and I on Wednesday, and then Mark will keep everybody posted on what we have planned for the draft coming up, and then also free agency. That's a big day. That's always a fun day. Monday, July 1st, we're going to be doing our free agent special. We always have a great time doing it and a lot of viewers. So, and that's also another reason why we want to kind of like rush back. Me and Mark debated about, kind of going home on Monday, but that's a big day for us. And, traveling on free agency isn't really the best idea when there's so much things happening that you miss out on. So, we'll be back in time for free agency, and we'll come to you with our special that day. But thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate it, and have a good night, and we'll talk soon.